It is Law and Love, or Love and Law. Most importantly, it's Alexis, Sapphire, Briar joining me for another episode where we get to hang out with someone we've only gotten like bits and pieces with. We're going to meet somebody, and this is big, who named his fantasy football team arguably in honor of the husband and wife lawsuit.
Yes.
That's pretty big, don't you think?
Very big. I mean, what could be more big than a fantasy football team? That's like everything.
To one of your sons, it is everything.
True.
In fact, you never really ask about my fantasy football team. Why is that?
Because you made a whole family fantasy football and didn't ask me to join.
No. What
That's
happened
exactly what happened.
No, this is lies and false propaganda. What happened was your daughter excluded you, and I didn't stop her.
And you even needed 2 more players.
No. I didn't need 2 more players because I'm not the one who created the
You're in another
exclusive
league.
fantasy league
You're
that
in like
you weren't
the big
invited
league, and then there was like a family league. I wasn't invited to the big league or the family league.
Okay, you'll never be invited to the big league because that's like serious business.
Serious business.
That's a $200 for the season. A lot rides on that. You're not going in. I'm not adding to that. That's for people who take this stuff seriously.
It's okay.
Now the $15 buy-in family-ish thing.
Yes.
It wasn't family. It was Ariella and some of people. It was her circle of influence.
Yes.
She invited all the people who knew fantasy football. Because
she doesn't know fantasy football.
that's why she wants to learn it. Did you want to learn fantasy football?
Actually, I'm just being super manipulative to you because I really don't care at all about the fantasy.
Because I could teach you right now. This could be the Law, Love, and Fantasy Football podcast.
I feel like I could win, and that's why you didn't invite me.
I'm sure you
because
do
I
feel
know
like
all
that.
the tools and resources, all the ways of these like internet
like what?
sites that you can look at and know like who you should bid on and
Can
stuff
you give
like
me?
that.
You should bid
Like I would have like,
which site would you use?
what's the name of the site you said? What's the name of the site for
I
pros
use-
something?
Yes, it's Fantasy Pros. But
Fantasy Pros.
But we may bleep that out if they don't sponsor our podcast because this is the
that's
Law
true.
and Love podcast.
That is
not-
true.
well, I mean,
Nothing about like football.
nothing, not yet.
Right. We should add that like law, love, and fantasy football.
That's basically what this
It's
has
hard
become.
enough to remember law and love. We probably can't remember one more word.
So
But yes, it's an honor that if somebody named their fantasy football team about us. I mean, they should have just said the wife part, but so
it
maybe
could have
it's
just
not
been
as
a
much of an
coincidence.
honor.
Mike may come on here and say it wasn't really about you. It was just coincidence.
That's true.
So we're going to bring on, people don't know that Mike Bauer is, well, people, let me rephrase. I don't know what I'm saying. Everybody knows that Mike Bauer runs the in-game operations, is the face of the Diamondbacks. It's not Torrey.
Yes.
It's not Cattell. It's Mike.
Yes.
That's the real face of the Dbacks, and we all know it. In fact, I have heard there's a little bit of jealousy in the Dbacks locker room over this very fact.
He's all I see, not even the players.
You go to a game and you leave and you're like, that was fun watching Mike and
Yes.
Vanessa. Did they play a game? That's
Yes.
pretty much how I feel.
Yes. And who won?
And who won?
Was it set up?
And now we're going to find out why he's so great at his job. So we are bringing in Mike Bauer so our audience can learn more about what it's like to be on stage performing every moment of every day at your job, or at least one of your jobs. I try not to live my life in a negative place, like a place of jealousy, because I think that we're all given one chance to live the best life we can. But I am super jealous of Mike Bauer, who's going to be here with us, because he gets to do something that was basically my dream, remains my dream, but I have been shut out. I'm not allowed in. And here you are getting to perform. In effect, you got a mic in hand and a stadium filled with people whenever you want it. Is it the greatest job in the world?
I definitely think it's. I mean, as you guys said in the intro, maybe it's not as good as Torrey or Cattell, and maybe that might be a better job. But my job's about as good as it gets too. Plus, actually, no, my job could be better. My job could be Vanessa's job because she gets to work with me.
Is that right? There you go. We're gonna have fun. So I will say this: Cattell's job's probably great, right? But I don't know that being a major league manager, like every game you lose, you get blamed for things like it. I'm not so sure if that's the most fun job.
Yeah, but every game you win, you
get credit.
Yeah, you
even
get credit.
if you didn't deserve it.
And you're the you manager of the year. You're the winningest manager. Yeah, so I think Torrey's doing all right.
When you do the job as well as Torrey Cattell and Mike Bauer, any job is fun. So how did you, I'm going to get to deeper questions soon, but since we're on this, how did you end up in a stadium, mic in hand, running stuff? I actually know this answer, but our audience does not.
It's like, I hope I get the answer right.
Yeah,
then.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know.
I don't know, so clue me in.
All right. Well, so I tried out for the job and I got it years ago before the
That's
2007 season.
That's what happened.
We Dbacks had Fan Fest. It was right outside in front of the ballpark, and tried out. There was a microphone on a tripod, and I, in front of a camera that was operated by nobody, tried out for the job. I had a little bit of experience in a very unique niche profession of being an in-game host or an MC, because I was the MC / in-game host for the Phoenix Roadrunners minor league hockey team before that. And so I was like, well, I got to try out for Major League Baseball. Sounds like a step up to the big leagues. And that was 18 years ago now,
Wow.
depending on when people are watching this, maybe longer.
It's 29 years ago. Because the shelf life of the Law and Love podcast, it's a long one. The day you showed up for that tryout, was that the only thing going on that day? Like, show up for tryouts, and were there hundreds of people, or was it you and 4 people during a game? Like, what was it like?
There was a lot of stuff going on because it was FanFest. So it was one of the stations at FanFest. And needless to say, at the time, there was a lot more people that wanted Brandon Webb's autograph or something like that. Like, they were in the line for autographs or to get swag, as opposed to the tripod set up with a camera next to it. So I tried out, I got the job, and I always joke that, maybe they've made clerical errors since then and they just keep bringing me back from year to year, but it really is, it's a tremendous amount of fun. Even the rough years that we've had, I get to work at a ballpark. I get to work at, I get to show up and say that this is my office, this is my cubicle, and it's Chase Field. So it's tremendous.
Let's roll it back then. How'd you get the job with the Roadrunners?
Well, I went to school for radio, and I wanted to go into radio, and I was doing that. I was
working, a voice for radio.
Thank you. And I have, done a bunch of radio shows over the years. And so I was a kid right out of college, ASU, go Devils. And I, got a job. I was working part-time nights at this radio station. But during my college time at ASU, I became a huge fan of the hockey program. I always loved the sport, love hockey. And they had a club team. Now it's a D1 program, a beautiful facility.
A legit D1 program.
I feel like I built that program, but not
Single-handedly.
Exactly.
You do get a lot of the credit.
I think so. I think so. The mullet / Bauer arena is what it should be. No, but so I helped kind of build the radio program at the campus radio station for the ASU hockey team, which was just a club team. We were literally doing broadcasts on top of an equipment locker with folding chairs with our feet dangling over the edge, hanging over the bench. And I made my own business cards on an inkjet printer at my parents' house after graduating, and I went around trying to get jobs as a kid out of college.
I just want to tell you, Mark made his own business cards when we were married, and
now you got
said,
me in trouble. Thanks, Mark.
I will never put you on my business card. You'll never work with me. I just had to tell you that. So go ahead.
Oh, boy, things escalated quickly.
I want you to know that the story she just told had nothing to do with your story.
It didn't, but whenever I hear business card and I'm near Mark, I just want to remind him, remember that time you had business cards printed?
What I found that
you wouldn't include me on them?
is great about the love part of a relationship is how forgiving my wife is. And
wives are so forgiving.
there's just so much grace that I'm given
yes.
for that choice of words in 1994. But anyway.
So back to you. Go ahead. You got your business cards printed.
So I went, I was trying to get a job,
it.
and I went and I sat behind the broadcaster for the minor league hockey team. And as soon as the game was over and he wrapped up his broadcast, I was like, you guys hiring? Here's my business card that I printed up myself, like
That
6 hours
takes guts,
ago.
though.
Love it.
And
yes.
and they wanted to give me a job as the pre and post game host for the radio, and they were not able to offer me any money, so I was not able to take the job. But I kept in touch. A year later, he ended up reaching out to me and said, we have this job for an in-game host that they're doing tryouts for the minor league hockey team. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what an in-game host is. I didn't know.
Right.
It was, a very sparse thing. You didn't have a lot of ballparks or stadiums or arenas that had somebody like me out there on the big screen or, interacting with fans. And so I tried out for that. I got that job. And then a year later, tried out for the Dbacks. So that was 2007. Yeah.
And
so cool.
what is the training like for that job?
I think,
Or they just hand you a mic and say, run.
no, I mean, in terms of like the actual tryout process, it's, here's a microphone, pretend that you're doing a t-shirt toss, you're throwing out to fans, pretend, and I was at the time trying out at the Phoenix Suns practice court that is now like a sweet club. Like, it's awesome. They redid the whole arena and it's just a giant bar, but it was, an empty basketball court at that time, a hockey arena that they had the ice out. And so I tried out in an empty room and pretended that there was fans. And, you talked about optimism and pessimism earlier. I said, I'm a very optimistic person. And I think that kind of energy is infectious. And I've always been a sports fan. So, just to kind of, to authentically really enjoy where you are, whether it's a minor league hockey team, Major League Baseball, or some of the other events I've done, whether it be, college football playoffs, the Fiesta Bowl, or, what have you. I'm just lucky to be there. And I hope to share that energy and that optimism, for me, positivity to other people.
So did you work the game last night?
I did work the game last night.
Okay. So let's say it's the 6th inning. It's a huge game. The home team is down a gazillion.
Yeah.
You still are on. The spotlight's on you, right? Is it harder to bring it, when it's, because, I know it's a job.
Yeah.
But I imagine to some degree you're still a fan of the teams that or it's just a job and you can flip the switch when you need to flip it.
So one of the things that I've told broadcasting students that I've either mentored or taught, I was a teacher at Arizona State University for years, is that I value authenticity. That's one thing I like. Getting to know you guys is like those people I see up on the ads and this. I'm like, that's really you guys. I love that you guys are authentic.
I'm totally fake, but she is authentic.
Sarcasm, people, sarcasm.
But I love authenticity. And so for me, there is a balance there because when we're losing, I am genuinely disappointed. I want us to win. And so, yes, I'm sad. And so oftentimes in a moment in which the Dbacks are down, 5-10 runs,
right.
Hopefully we don't have that happen, but we've had some seasons that are, have been really rough during my time there. And I'm there. I'm sharing this authentic moment with the fans. So they're kvetching to me. I'm reciprocating that. The other night I had a fan asking me, how come this player's not playing? And how come that? And,
let me go talk to Tori.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on a second. We'll stop the game. I'll go walk down there. But for me, I also, a lot of times people ask me what my favorite part of the job is. And, I said, hey, I get to work at a ballpark, but really my favorite part of the job is that no matter what happened in your day that day, if your spouse left you, if your dog ran away, whatever, you just flunked a test, you got a ticket on the way to the ballpark, guess what? You're still here. You're still at a baseball game or one of the football games. You're still at a football game. The years I did Coyotes games, something has gone right in your day. Or even if everything has gone wrong in your day, this moment right now is the best moment of your terrible day. And if you can remember that, even if we lose, by a touchdown in a baseball game, which is not good.
Right.
But if we lose by a bunch, you still went and shared the time with family or friends or, had a beer and a hot dog and sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," or danced because, we were playing music, or we all danced. I danced with a husband and wife law team up on the big screen, and fans got to.
If that doesn't make people smile,
know,
what will?
Right? But it's those moments that even if the game doesn't go the right way, I was so heartbroken last year when we lost the World Series, but you know what? We were in the World Series, so it still is an unforgettable moment.
And they played so well.
Yeah.
Even in losing all those tight games and everything else. But it's not
or
always
getting blown
like
out. We did get blown out, and that was still it was a fun game for many people. It stinks we lost, but it was a wonderful memory that so many people are going to have quite literally for the rest of their lives.
And your personal role, you're still giving fun to everyone throughout the entire game. So I think that's
well, and that's
just amazing.
if we're sharing those moments, and a lot of times I think about what I do and how people see me, and they see me up on the big screen, but really a lot of those moments are the moments that I'm talking with, a season ticket holder or somebody who came to their first game. The stories that I've heard from little kids to nearly 100-year-old, fans that are telling me this is my first game, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I get to share this experience with you. And those one-on-one conversations that I have with no camera around, those are the ones that I take away from those games, because not to downplay it, but we'll do these, I'm at so many different games, these giant moments that, as you mentioned, is kind of part of the job. But it's those one-on-one interactions where I get to find out from somebody, I had a fan earlier this year that told me, hey, I'm going in for a medical procedure, this next week, ran out of his seats to come up and tell me about it. And I said, hey, hope all goes well. Best of luck. When are you going to be back? Hey, I'll be back next week. Said, do me a favor, track me down and let me know how it went. And the fact that young man took his time out of his day to come track me down.
Did you get tracked down?
Me. He did. Yeah, he came and shared the news with me.
Very scary
Wished
story.
the best
That's
for him.
so
But
cool.
yeah. And he came back a week later or the next homestand and was like, hey, let me give you an update.
Right.
So yeah, it's
Do
it's
you
cool.
you have been seen by so many here, right? Most people at some point, that's a big word, but I would guess most people who live in Arizona, or at least most people who live in the Phoenix metro area in the Valley, have at some point gone to a D-backs game and have probably seen you. But does that translate to you're grabbing a Whopper, Burger King, or whatever you get, and do you get recognized out and about?
Every once in a while, yeah. And the way that it actually happens, interestingly enough, the most is it's my voice. It's not my made for radio, face for radio. It's somebody who's usually like, I think I recognize that voice. And then, I'll be like, well, do you want me to like announce a hot dog derby? Ketchup, mustard, relish. But yeah, it is really cool. And it's also kind of uncomfortable at times because I it's like, yeah, that's yes. Like, hey, are you the D-backs guy? Yeah, I am. Hey, like, hi, I don't know. It's weird at times, but it's always amazing to be, a small part of somebody's life. And not to get emotional here, but the coolest thing for me the last 2 years is I became a dad. And I've brought my daughter to a couple games. She's about 18 months old. And I've brought her to a few games and just a handful of games. And the amount of people, the amount of fans, or just people that maybe I've never met before, or I see at a handful of games that ask me, at least to me, seemingly out of the blue, how's your daughter? And I'm getting goosebumps right now. I just melt because that's incredible for somebody that maybe I've exchanged words a couple times, at a ball game. I've high-fived after a home run to now be asking me how my daughter. And then of course I become a mess because I'm like, I start thinking about my daughter, and then I'm missing her. I'm missing my wife and my family, and they're like, oh, she's great, she's growing, whatever it is. I give them an update, but it's like
you like your daughter.
I do, yeah. I don't yet know if she likes me.
All right,
She definitely likes her mom.
You gotta wait a little bit.
Yeah,
It's
when do you
funny.
find out?
We were talking about this the other day, but we have 4 girls and 4 boys, and
Good balance.
Yeah, you got to balance them out.
You got to balance 4 girls, 4 boys, but
No pressure, Mike, but you got
all
to
of
balance
the
them out.
boys love sports. And all of the girls, I'm like, you weren't able to brainwash them, Mark. They're all like, nope, I don't want to go to the games.
It is.
So
But you're smart. You're getting her to the ballpark
You're getting
early.
her younger.
Does your wife like sports?
She does. We actually kind of met years ago based on our combined love of sports. She grew up in a hockey family. She's Canadian. Her dad coached hockey for years. Her brothers played at NAU. So they love sports. And so when we kind of started talking, one of our first dates was at an ASU hockey game at Glendale, the old Coyote Stadium. Yeah. So we share that love. And so we're, multiple times we've gone as a family to D-backs games. One of the nights I'm not working, I'm still like, honey, can we go to the game? Can we go as a family? Can we bring our daughter? And I definitely, I put my foot down. I'm like, Father's Day at the ballpark is happening every year. I need the family there.
So
Yeah, but
that's
you might be
nice.
working. You're going to work that day.
I am, but I'm bringing the family along. Absolutely. Let's go.
So
I'm holding my daughter down on the field.
You gotta
on
show
the big
her
screen.
off.
Have you done that?
I have.
I love it.
So that is amazing. Not only about you, but it says something about the organization you work for, that they don't take themselves
sure.
too seriously, and that's allowed.
Yeah, it was, it's at least the last 2 years has been very, very, very kind of everybody to allow me to smuggle my family onto the field and take pictures with my, with my daughter and my wife, my in-laws, my folks come
They
out.
may push back if you're holding her at 12.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Right.
That's a conversation for down the road.
Right. But I think, so I didn't tell her this because I'm such a kind person who didn't want to work with her. And the reason our daughters don't like sports is not because I failed to expose them to the beauty of sports and the fun of sports. It's because their mother had no interest and they followed their mother. She failed them. But
That
your
could be.
your wife is not going to fail your daughter because she too shares the love of sports.
Or you as a good father and of course mother were protecting your daughters from the misery of being a sports fan for all those times that you lose
Exactly.
games and you are just miserable because your team didn't win. So you're protecting them from
My
that.
father.
They may have been scared to love sports, like he's saying, because they watched their father during some of the games.
So here's
when
a
he
true
was
story I
younger.
shouldn't share. Bad start. So my daughter, she was in, I think, 4th grade and maybe 5th, I think 4th grade, our oldest daughter. And she said to me somewhere out of nowhere, she's like, Daddy, something came up about swearing. And she goes, I know what the F word is. And I go, no, you don't. Yes, I do. I go, what's the F word? She got it pretty much right. She added an EN to it, but she got it right. And I said, and I was surprised. So I said, how'd you learn that? She goes, when you watch Michigan State. And I honestly, like with the younger kids, forget it, because they were all hearing it from their older siblings. But with the older kids, I honestly thought at those ages, I had not exposed them, which means I got so mad at watching the team I love, right? Which is even more a whole different set of therapy sessions. But that I had sworn in front of my kid and taught her a valuable word, but one I would have liked her to value a little bit older.
You're literally the worst dad ever.
That's true. And I found it out that day. But I was actually really surprised.
Yeah.
And now I should go check with her and find out if she actually
Poor
learned it
kid.
somewhere else.
She probably learned it from one
She was
of
just
her
messing with me.
friends who had older siblings.
But no,
And
I
then just blamed it on you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it was you.
which would be
Keep
so
your daughter
smart.
away from friends who have older siblings. That's just
Well, 1.5,
advice.
you don't have to worry about it.
Not at 1.5. I'm just saying when they're older.
So it is one thing because the issue with your main job, if we can call it that, at the Dbacks, right? 81 home games a year. You work a bunch
Lot
of
of games.
A lot of days. And the time's not good. It's like working retail, right? Like, okay, you get the occasional Wednesday day game, but for the most part, your nights and weekends. That's all well and good until a year and a half ago. But now you got a baby girl.
Yeah.
And it kind of changes you can't give up what you're doing, and it's a great job, and you seem to love the job, and you're working for a great organization, but all of a sudden it's, another night, another weekend. So has it been hard to juggle that?
It's on the bright side. My wife, she teaches, and she's a doctor and teaches at a couple different schools here in town, and so she works the 9 to 5, right?
Right.
Maybe 8 to 4 or whatever. So at least there's a physical handoff. Essentially, I'll work from home, or maybe I'll be in the office, and we're lucky we have grandparents that live here locally that help out with childcare for our daughter. And so when she gets home, I just kind of hand her and just go, all right, I got to go. Sometimes it'll take like a half an hour, depending on if traffic was good or what have you. But then I do have to run down to the ball. One thing that does help out, though, is that my work schedule is a magnet on the refrigerator. So that does help out with the fact that my schedule for work, it's in red and white boxes on the fridge for Dbacks schedule for next year. We already know what it looks like. So we can plan things. Like we got married earlier this year. We knew last year that we couldn't actually plan our wedding until the Dbacks schedule came out, and we planned it specifically so the Dbacks were on the road, because a lot of my closest friends work with the team too, so I wanted them to be there. Our PA announcer was our officiant. I'm like, I need him to be there. My wonderful co-host Vanessa, who you guys know, I was like, well, she got to be. So we had to do it on a road trip. So that's, at least for me and for the family, at least knowing that, okay, this is a static, there's a website for my work schedule. There's a calendar on the refrigerator, a magnet, okay. So that does help out with the kind of with that work-life balance, is knowing that's going to be there all the time.
And I don't want to be the negative Nancy, but the downside is you can't lie to family and go, I got to work today, when they know on their schedule is your work.
They're like, it's on my fridge. Doesn't look like you are.
So this will surprise you a little bit. And Alexis doesn't know this about me, but I crave attention. And I would do anything for attention. And I think if I got to work one of the weekend games, like 4th of July when it's a homestand or Father's Day, when it's like something like that, that it would be such a even when you have us. So again, like the people,
you can stay home for Father's Day, and Mark.
Yeah, I got you. You can still get paid. I'll do it. But
he'll give you all the money from the day.
I'll add in. I will pay more for that. But even when you let us when we get our little 20 seconds of t-shirt toss. By the way, I have a plan for next year's t-shirt toss. Or the DJ, whatever we get to do.
Are you going to work on trying to get it to the second level?
I have a plan, which I want to bounce off you. But anyway, so it is so much fun.
Practices that. Just kidding.
It is. You just sit at home and throw t-shirts at my kids.
It looks a lot harder than it is. I mean, the cannons are amazing.
It looks harder than it is, or it's harder than it looks?
It's harder than it looks. Sorry. Yeah. To get it far.
So it is such a rush to get my 20 seconds of attention. And you get it repeatedly.
I can't tell.
Yeah, right.
I'd never picked that up. Yeah.
I knew you guys wouldn't suspect it.
He's bashful.
I know. I used to tell Mark that the reason he wanted to do trials is because the jury had to sit there and had to listen to him. They couldn't go anywhere. So it was like a captive audience.
She's not wrong. Not wrong.
Because that is one thing about jury trials. Like
jurors don't get to just get up and walk away.
No. Right, yeah.
I'm still going.
I'm still going.
So is it a rush when it's a big game? Or for you, it's just, I don't know if when you've done it as long as you've done it, if everything becomes a job. It's like, football players or baseball players, they still go home. It's a job and they have a job to do.
Yep.
So we all go, how can they not care that they have a job to do, right? And they still have to go home and live their life. And they don't have to cry in their beer, so to speak, every game they lose just because a fan does. For me, when I look at your job, I think it would be a rush for me every single night, especially with a big crowd because of how I'm wired. Is it a rush?
It absolutely is. But I mean, I think the rush comes from the fact that I am doing the coolest job in the world for, like I said earlier, is that I work at a ballpark. So I also have an obligation if we have, if it's a Monday, or even a better example, a Wednesday day game where maybe kids are just back in school. So we have a smaller crowd. My job, I still owe it to the fans. I still owe it to, to the ballpark experience, to the game day experience. I still owe it to everybody to still be as good as I would for a packed stadium like the World Series last year. So I still have that obligation to do my job to the best of my ability, whether we have a small crowd or a large crowd. But when you've got 50,000 fans waving towels, screaming their faces off like we did at the World Series last year.
Or in the NLCS after back-to-back home runs or whatever it was, 3 or 4, whatever it was.
NLDS 4 home runs in a row. And I like to say that it's 4.5.
Right,
Gabby Moreno actually had one that got called back and then hit the next one on the next pitch.
One of my favorite moments I've ever witnessed in person. I've witnessed some really cool sports moments. To have that taken away from you as a human, any human, like a moment that big, no one steps back up and does it again. It's just not, because your mind has to stay on, that was an amazing testament to one player's mindset in that moment.
But I think that there's also parallels to that in life too, is that there's times, and not to get into cliche, but where you get knocked down and it's, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up, right? And so that's the kind of situation where I think that we can look at that and look at Gabby Moreno, a rookie for the Diamondbacks, in a moment like that where he hits a home run that's called a foul ball, then steps back up and hits a home run on the next.
Do you dispute that it was a foul ball? Because you seem a little bit.
No, I was standing in right field. We were getting ready to go out on the field and do an event. I think it was our steal second base game where we have a kid that runs out on the field and steals second base and then runs back. And I saw all 4 home runs from right field right by that foul pole. So I probably had one of the best views in the stadium. I saw it. I was like, that's foul. That stinks. And then the next, boom, another home run. But I thought what was really cool about that is the fact that, life gave him lemons and he made some delicious lemonade out of that.
we were sitting because it was a big game. We love the Diamondbacks, partner with the Diamondbacks. We were sitting on the third base side of the stadium, and I couldn't tell. I couldn't even tell when, I just couldn't tell, and then it didn't matter. It was a very cool moment. All right, let me tell you my plan. And if you think this is a bad plan, you can just tell me it's a bad plan. I won't listen.
I also have no say, but I'll listen.
Okay. So you've thrown T-shirts.
I have.
And you've actually gotten a T-shirt. You told me once. You've made a T-shirt into the second deck.
I have.
And that's my dream. And every time we throw T-shirts, in my mind, I can get it to the second deck. And every time we throw T-shirts, I don't get it to the second deck.
Okay.
But the problem, as I see it, is a matter of physics. I didn't take physics, so I don't actually know if it's a matter of physics, but it's a matter of weight. There's only so much weight, so it's harder to get it to go far. So
You're gonna put a frisbee on it?
no. So
Okay, that would have been a good idea.
that would have been a good idea. Where were you when I was thinking of my plan? So let's
Trying
just
to
say
work with you on
I
your
take
plan.
I take one of the shirts, and I put paper around it, one thing of duct tape, so it's got a little weight. Now
I feel like that might be a safety hazard.
you think so?
Well, I mean, because you're adding weight now. Now it's not soft. I mean, what if what if somebody
duct
misses
tape.
it and it
I'm
hits
not
them?
putting metal onto it. All right, well, it was a good plan. I liked the idea. Well,
I think
I got
from
a better
a physics
idea.
standpoint, you're right on.
What?
From a safety standpoint, of somebody getting hit in the face with a
We
ball
can't
of
do
duct
that.
tape, maybe not
That's
a good idea.
bad. That's bad. But here's an idea. Little bit of duct tape, and then put the T-shirt around it.
Then it'll
Still a problem.
come down.
I mean,
So
at
you
least the
do-
soft is on the outside then.
You do all these things: the T-shirt toss, the games, the DJ. I mean, so many things.
The second base stealing. And by the way,
Yes.
those kids, our kids in Arizona are the fastest kids ever because they always steal second base. These kids are successful. They bat like 1,000. You know why? We got more athletic kids in this state.
Most of
It
the
is
kids,
the only explanation.
They are
I mean,
fast.
again, I don't have any say, but I try to offer them like a futures contract. I'm like, can we sign you guys to a minor league deal? That was very fast.
Right.
But what's your do you have a favorite of what you do?
That's it. Not to low hanging fruit, the
The
thing we were
second?
literally just talking about, but when the kids steal second base,
Yes.
and it's not just because the kid, you have an 8-year-old boy, 10-year-old girl running to second base, but there's so much opportunity for really unique moments, and sometimes we have that. We've had before where the player from the opposing team has actually grabbed the base and handed it to the kid. We've had it where the fans just absolutely lose their minds. And I think I'm like, wow, they're louder for this, for Timmy, who's 8 years old running in his Dbacks jersey than they were for the home run from Corbin Carroll last inning, So,
Right.
so we have a cool moment like that. But then also to see the family there, where they got their phones out and just
So
that
cute.
proud moment and sharing that. But I mean, I think that's my favorite, is because it's always about a kid. So sorry, Mark, we can't have you out running to go steal second base.
Yet. It's currently about a kid.
But he could.
Steal third.
No, you could be
That's
like
farther.
No
You wouldn't
one's
make
stealing
it.
third.
You wouldn't make it in time. It's too far.
I wouldn't make it. That's.
the race that they have with.
Oh, we've been trying to work our way into this.
Yes. He wants to be one of
we
those
want the legends,
characters.
the 4 legends, and me.
To run.
We can even have them have a head start, and then here
Yeah.
comes the dude in suspenders trying to catch him. I can even fall flat on my face as they run on top of me, just so I get the attention.
I feel like you
So you
wouldn't
can
even
run
have to
around.
plan that. That would probably happen anyway.
I just got to get on the field, and then if I actually do it that way, then the police come and get me, and it'll just be a whole great event for everybody.
You would get tackled. You'd have to find legal representation.
right?
That's funny. I love that one too, though. Anything with the kids is always amazing, but when they have to compete against each other, then I'm like, oh, how do
Wait,
they
we don't have the kids
pick?
compete. Oh yeah, we do. Like the kids have to run in place. Their ketchup, mustard, and relish.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to lose.
So
Yes.
you guys asked me about my favorite thing in terms of the in-game activities.
Yes.
But I do want to share with you kind of my favorite thing that I see every year, and it happens every single season, and it's always during Dodgers games. And I understand from a cognitive standpoint, there are a lot of Dodgers fans that come to games.
Right.
And it's for understandably a good reason. One, LA is close. People drive out here.
Yes.
But two, if you grew up here in the 80s, there was no baseball team. There was no Diamondbacks. If you grew up here in the 90s, our first year was 1998. There was no Arizona Diamondbacks. So my absolute, bar none, favorite thing I see every year is at a Dodgers game when I see mom, dad, big brother, big sister, older person wearing a Dodgers jersey. I don't like to see Dodgers jerseys at our stadium. I don't like the color blue. I'm sorry I'm wearing blue.
I'm not a huge fan myself.
But I understand
you're both wearing
where
blue.
they came from, where they grew up. They probably grew up here listening to Vin Scully in the 80s and 90s on the radio. So you see the older person with a Dodgers jersey. And whose hand are they holding? Little brother, little sister, son, daughter. And that kid has a Diamondbacks jersey on.
Yes.
And it's my favorite thing to see because I've gone and I've had a conversation with many of these fans over the years too. But even if I don't have that conversation in my head, what I'm seeing is this kid dragged the Dodgers fan to go see their Diamondbacks play. And I love seeing that. It's my absolute favorite thing to see is because I understand where the Dodgers fan thing came from based on the fact that we're one of the youngest teams in baseball. But when I see that, I go, you know what? A couple years from now, that older Dodgers fan, they're probably going to put a Dbacks fan on or jersey on for their kid or for their little brother, little sister.
Look, a third of LA has moved here. So I don't expect people to give up the team they grew up cheering for. But I give credit. I've never noticed what you just said, but credit to the parent who allows their kid to cheer for the local team, right?
Yeah.
Because that's cool to cheer for the local team. Just like you may have grown up cheering for what was then your local team and now you've moved, as opposed to you're going to be a Dodger fan no matter what.
That happened to us. I mean, I think like Mark, he's from Detroit. He rooted for the Lions, obviously now. I mean, the
Tigers,
but all the Detroit teams. But now we've been here so long, he roots for the Arizona teams. But
wait, what?
Whatever.
That's no. You're not gonna tell lies on me.
Okay, we won't tell lies. But you root for them.
I root for the Lions first. The Cardinals are my second favorite team. So when the Lions were here this week, I did not really want to go, and I chose not to go because if one of the teams was having a terrible year, it's too early for that to have been true, and they both had hope, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I'm a Lions fan first, but cheering against my second favorite team at the point where they were 1-1 with the chance to, do I know who I'm cheering for? Absolutely. I cheer for the Wings first. Of course, the Coyotes are gone. The Pistons are my favorite. I cheer for the Suns, but I grew up. However, this was very hard for me as someone who grew up a sports fan in a sports town. And when I moved out of here, everyone back home would go, "Oh, you're a such and such fan from Arizona." I cheer for the team I grew up for first. However, about 2 years ago, I turned to her and I was like, I have to finally admit to myself that I actually cheer for the Dbacks more.
See?
Because I got to know you and Natalie, who was with us. I don't know any of the players.
But what I was going to say is that I think you do have all these people who have come from different places. And the Dodgers, they obviously show up like crazy. When we were at that game, I was like, oh my gosh, these Dodger fans are so loud and like
bad weeds, just
they're
popping
in, like,
up everywhere.
These major groups and like they're so loud. But our youngest son, because he's the youngest, he's grown up here, like he's a Dbacks fan, like most
all the way.
All the way. So I think it's like, the parents, they might have transplanted here, but the kids, it's like they're like, no, the Arizona teams are my teams.
You have to get lucky,
the Diamondbacks are,
if you can have a few good years while a kid's growing up in that town, they're yours, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
But if you go on a 15-year run where your team never is really competitive, kids may gravitate, who knows? They may cheer up for the hometown team, but they may not. And so what the
I feel like you're speaking from personal experience based on the Tiger struggles.
It's been
Some
quite a run.
of our kids purposely picked different teams than their dad.
Oh, the boys are the worst.
They're like, we're going to cheer for teams that compete against my dad's team.
Because my real love at home is Michigan State, right? Michigan State football and basketball. I like pro sports. I follow pro sports, but I care way too much about college sports. And so to see these little traitors.
Usually got kids.
No.
Sarcasm.
No.
I basically walk around Mark saying he's just joking. He's
Not
just
joking. Not joking. You got raised in a house where you wore green and white. You sang the Michigan State fight song before you went to bed. You lived and breathed green and white. And then you get old enough and you throw on some random jersey of some team that's winning a national championship. And I don't have to love you as much as I did before. I don't have to.
They're only allowed to wear Michigan State.
No, they can wear what they want, but I'm not forced.
Otherwise,
they're
they're
not
a
forced to
traitor.
wear what I say, and I'm not forced to love them as much.
Were you born in Arizona?
I was born in the Chicago area. Grew up as
Chicago.
a Bulls and Blackhawks fan. Did not like the Red Wings and the Pistons at all. And,
Are you
and
a
thankfully,
Jordan
the Bulls and the
fan?
Blackhawks took care of business.
Are you a Jordan fan? Then?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Our
Yeah.
daughter, actually, it's not true that our girls are not sports fans at all, because we were in this thrift shop the other day and our daughter got a Jordan tank top, like a, what do you call it? Like
A Trader's jersey?
no, it was
a great jersey.
It was
It's
a thrift shop,
greatest
so
of all time
it
jersey.
was like an older jersey.
Nice.
Like
Little throwback.
A throwback
Okay.
jersey.
Best shooting guard of his
Yes.
generation.
And
Just
I was
player
like,
of all time is fine.
yeah, so she picked that. And I don't know why, but in the back of my head, I was like, I don't know if your dad's going to let you wear that.
You weren't wrong, and it bothered me a little bit because
Did you see her wear it?
I watched the way Jordan kept Isaiah off the dream team because he's a petty individual and used his power because he had Gatorade and Nike stuff, and maybe he was pretty good, and used it against
And
the
the
best
sneakers
small
are
point
still
guard in the
going.
history of the game.
And he's been out of the league.
Yeah,
for-
it's horrible. This
forever.
is the media hype of Chicagoland dragging down America.
So when did
I
you
mean,
move
you know,
from?
it's really a pity that the dream team. I mean, imagine what they could have done with Isaiah
if
Thomas.
Zeke was on the
Yes.
team, let me tell you
I think
something. Who
they
knows?
They were fine without him.
They did
fine.
well enough.
They did all right. They did all right with that Zeke.
Did you move out here for ASU?
Yeah, I moved here to go to
okay.
school. I moved here
Love it.
back way too long ago to start going to college, and
Yes.
and then after that, after I graduated in the broadcasting world, I've always thought of it this way. And I got to go to the Cronkite School. Lucky to asked to teach there too, but. Coming out of a great broadcasting school is that are you a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? Meaning, do you go to, Scottsbluff, Nebraska?
That's the
and-
traditional path, right?
Right, and follow that path. Or what I ended up doing is I was like, you know what? I ended up getting a part-time job at a radio station here that then fast forward years later, I was running the radio station and hosting shows.
I didn't know
so
that.
it was do you stick around in a big market and work your way up? Or do you go to a smaller market and then kind of bounce around to these smaller markets and then eventually parachute back into maybe where you came from or a bigger market? So,
After moving all over the place.
yeah, so I ended up going small fish, big pond and tried to work my way up.
What kind of radio stuff did you do?
So I worked for, at the time, Extra Sports 910, and now it's Fox Sports 910 Phoenix. And I was there for about 13, 14 years
As a
full-time.
producer or on the air?
I started as the evening producer. I was the executive producer, assistant program director. I kind of ran things from behind the scenes, and then also was part of old school radio fans would know Bickley and MJ. I worked with The Drive with Jody Ayler and Mike Jarecki for years. And then I left that station to go launch a new station. And, I thought it was an opportunity for me to be the morning show host. So I got to work with my good friends Kevin Ray and Sean Crespin and Craig Fooey. And we did shows for years there, working with my guys Rockman, Minucci, Dan Minucci and Mike Morocco. And so I did sports talk radio full time for
You
about
worked
20
with
years
all
here.
of the legends of sports talk radio, or almost all of them,
Yeah.
not all of them.
Yeah.
But all, that's crazy. The two guys that, I can't believe I don't remember, the dude from New York.
Gambo.
Yeah. and Ash.
Yeah.
And then before that, it was
I worked
him and
with
Tim.
when I first started at 910.
Tim something and Gambo.
Yeah, so I worked with those
Lester,
guys for a
maybe?
long time.
You worked with every.
Yeah.
So is sports talk radio, because I used to listen to it, and then eventually I
used to do
fizzled
it.
out, right? Is it still as big as it once was, or radio in general is not as strong, right?
I think we have like 5 or 6 sports talk radio stations here in Phoenix right now.
So it's plenty strong.
So, yeah,
Is that what you wanted to do when you graduated? Like more sports radio?
Yeah, because I wasn't good at playing sports anymore. So out of high school, I realized I was like, wow, I can't do this for much longer, but actually playing the sport. So how do I stay around the sport? And so, I've been very fortunate to cover multiple Super Bowls and Final Fours and, fly out to the Daytona 500 and, see these incredible moments, standing there right, on the goal line at at the Fiesta Bowl when Boise State wins on the hook and ladder play or the Statue of Liberty play, these moments that I've been fortunate to be there. You mentioned the Lions-Cardinals game. I was there reporting for Sirius XM radio, so I still dabble a little bit. I was down in the Lions locker room afterwards as they were celebrating because I had to get an interview with a player. So I host Arizona's longest running golf radio show. Still on, so I still dabble.
That's cool. Yeah.
in sports talk radio, but it's not full time anymore.
Is it Backspin the Golf Show?
It is Backspin the Golf Show. Yeah,
That's your show?
that's me. Yeah,
It's been going forever.
31 years.
It's 31 years?
31 years. Yeah.
That's got to be one of the. Is there any show anywhere on radio in Arizona running longer than that?
I don't know.
It's not possible.
No, but actually, along the longevity thing, I will say that if you guys have any hookups at the Guinness Book of World Records, if you know anybody, I know that my wonderful co-host Vanessa at the ballpark, she's been wanting to get us in the Guinness Book for the longest tenured co-host duo.
Yeah, because she's been there a really long time.
Because we've been there 18
too,
years
right?
together.
18
and the
years
profession
together.
hasn't existed much before that. So we've got
Yes.
That's her theory is we've got to be number one.
She's right.
So if we're not number one there, maybe Backspin is number one for radio. I don't
She
know.
hasn't had times where she just couldn't deal with you
Yeah,
anymore?
like maybe you just need to get in the Guinness without her. I don't know.
You guys are the husband and wife law team. And we refer to ourselves, Vanessa and I refer to ourselves as, she's my sister from another mister and I'm her brother from another mother. But she really is my work wife. I'm her work husband. We've spent so much time together. But it wasn't even her that was the inspiration for my fantasy football team name, because I had another coworker and we were managing a team together. And so my coworker Alexis and we had a team together and we're like, you know what? We're going to name our team the Not Husband and Wife because we are not husband and
Right.
wife. So we named our fantasy team and we somehow snuck in the character. There's a character limit. So we somehow snuck it in, the Not Husband and Wife fantasy team. And then we took pictures with you guys.
I love it.
And your names were almost.
Very close. Mike and Alexis instead of
close.
Mark and Alexis.
Yeah.
Very close.
Very close.
And you guys were great and gracious. And we took pictures together of us like looking happy. And I would put that up if we won a fantasy football matchup. And then us looking sad. And I would put that up as our
so
team
great.
photo if we unfortunately lost.
But I
we
saw
need to get
online
them into Guinness.
on ESPN.
After doing all
ESPN
that.
covered it, and you guys didn't win it that year. It was very disappointing.
I posted a lot of pictures of us looking sad together.
Is that right?
Well, the first pick we had was injured all season. So
That'll do it.
That hurts. That hurts.
What could have been?
It could have been so great.
Right.
Do you have another one this year?
I'm in way too many fantasy leagues.
Okay.
Just ask my wife. Way too many.
Do you cheat like I do? Because I use Fantasy Pros and I pay for a subscription, which I think is cheating, but it's the only way I can compete with some of the people I play against.
You've mentioned Fantasy Pro so many times they should sponsor the show. There's room on the logo right
Exactly.
here.
Was that in the same one that I mentioned it? That is that.
I think so, yeah.
I'm on a roll.
I think he's thinking about his fantasy football team. Are you like having to trade players
what
or
happened
something
was
right
no.
now?
I was
Did your son call you to say you lost?
that kid will not. Our kids are the worst. And
Sarcasm.
Because they want your attention instead of the fantasy
Sarcasm.
team? Is that?
No, because
why does the why matter?
the kid's probably the worst because he beat Mark and he let him know.
He did beat me.
Hey, Dad, I beat you. Can you go look at the score right now? Like, what's it look like, Dad?
It was when
How's
I
it
played
look?
him, he sent me like 40 texts, probably not exaggerating, because he was winning the whole time.
He's in
And then-
college and it's like the one time he FaceTimes.
So then I
Good for him.
I took a like half a point lead. So I screenshot it and I send it. And at the point I took a half point lead, by coincidence, I had like a 50.1% chance of winning. Within 10 minutes, I was back to like 20%. It was horrible.
But that
dream
kid,
died.
that child did go to Michigan State. So
So go ahead, you
you
can
still
finish
have
it.
to love him.
Oh my! So
He's like the favorite.
you have not been asked this with
I know.
one kid.
Yeah.
But I
you
have
will
been,
once you have
I
your
have been
second.
asked many times. Well, you can't just. Anyway, so I have
can
been asked
say
many times.
anything.
Do you have a favorite kid? Or people are like, you have a favorite kid. Who is it? A lot of people are sure
You should be like
that
my
I
wife's
must
my
have a favorite kid. Not my favorite kid.
Well,
So-
just to avoid the question.
Even though these people don't
giving you
believe me
pointers.
because they're projecting onto me their own thoughts, maybe. But I really have never had a favorite kid. I mean, on any given day, there's kids that I like less. But overall,
One of the kids asked me the other day, they're like, Mom, Dad says he has no favorite. You say you know you have no favorite, but come on, tell me the truth. And I'm like, I really don't.
Because people
really
believe
don't.
you have to, but I really don't. I will admit that when the first one was born, I loved him so much that when she was pregnant with the second one, I felt bad for the second one because I knew, I never told her at the time because I felt so bad for feeling this way, but I knew I couldn't possibly love a kid as much as I loved the kid that was here. And so I felt bad for the unborn kid that will never be loved as much. And then that kid was born, and it turned out I loved that kid just as much. And I loved every kid as much as I loved the first one. And they were equal until August 27th of this year when kid number 6 chose Michigan State. Mm-hmm. And you know what? All the 5 before him had a choice. They all were good enough. They all had good enough grades because it may not take.
I mean, Michigan State's almost Harvard.
Michigan State is almost Harvard, but they all got in or could have gotten in if they applied.
Yeah.
And they chose not to go. He chose to go. And how do I not love him just a little bit more?
So let me ask you this. I want to put these two things together, right? We're talking about fantasy,
right,
and we're talking about kids in college.
The two things that matter most.
So let me ask you this. So my favorite teams, football teams, are ASU, whoever's playing U of A, and my fantasy football team in that order. So let me ask you, as parents of 8 kids, and now you have a favorite, if my daughter, God forbid, wants to go to like U of A, right, do I just kick her out of the family? Like, what do I do? Like, what? Because I can't imagine.
I
that.
will tell you what I have told my kids, and I mean it. And then I'll tell you a postscript to it, which I shouldn't tell you. I have made clear to my kids they can go anywhere. They do not have to go to Michigan State. That's my love. It doesn't have to be their love. They can go anywhere they want. But if they go to Michigan, I'm not paying and they're not welcome home till they're gone, because my hatred of those arrogant, self-entitled, sure, they're the greatest.
Sarcasm.
Well, there is no sarcasm in this. Let me make this clear to all you Michigan fans out there who hold yourself out as high and mighty. The biggest pay-for-play scandal in the history of the NCAA was your Fab Five that you love. And the biggest cheaters in the history of college football was when Connor Stallions got paid by Harbaugh to go down on the sidelines. Because you said sarcasm. There's no sarcasm. There's just hate. However, my son, our oldest, went to U of A for his first semester of college, and he wasn't liking it.
He couldn't get into a real school?
Apparently not.
Well, he wanted to go to another school, but at the time,
I didn't want to pay the extra money because I was like, what's the difference?
U of A is a great school. Like, go to ASU or go to U of A. Those are your choices.
So he chooses U of A, and he's not having a good semester. And that October, I did what I often do, which is take kids back to a Michigan State game. But that year, I took my 3 oldest boys to the Michigan State-Michigan game that was at Michigan. He had an amazing weekend. He knew kids who went there. He had so much fun. And after an entire life, now I have close friends and family who love University of Michigan. I don't hold it against them. We all have weaknesses. You know, everyone's got failure. So, but he went back there. He had friends. He had so much fun that after, and it's not a joke, I really felt like if you choose to go to Michigan, because Michigan's a really good school. If you get into Michigan, you got into other good schools. To choose Michigan is basically to spite me. And obviously they'd be allowed home, but I wasn't going to pay. Take out loans because I'm not paying money to that school because you're doing it. You could go elsewhere. So he has one good weekend. And I told him on the way home, I said, if you want to go to Michigan, I'm totally okay with it. It took one weekend
of watching. He went to University
of
Miami though instead.
He ended up he went somewhere else, and we still think U of A's. It was
I don't think
great
he even applied.
He
you know
didn't.
what? The thing about it is, when it comes to the dad, I do think it's like you hear it so often, you know? So it's like your daughter probably won't want to go to U of A unless she doesn't want to be at ASU because it's closer to where you live. But U of A is a great school.
I will move if that's what it takes for her to go to ASU.
Yes.
I will move.
So you just keep talking to her about how much you hate U of A, and I doubt she will want to go there.
All right.
You don't have to worry about it.
So it did keep my oldest son. By the way, that game, since you asked and you were wondering, that was the game with the greatest ending in the history of college football, where the punter from Michigan had trouble with the snap and the ball was free. and it was picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts-Jackson, and he scored on the last play
And
of the
we
game.
have some questions
It was
for you
unbelievable.
now.
Now we have questions.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Oh,
Like
goodness.
our questions weren't enough, so now these are
Oh my
audience
gosh.
questions.
This one's impossible.
Okay.
Ariana has this question. Good luck. What is on your bucket list? Seeing as how you've already seen everything that
Yeah.
everyone wishes they
Wow.
had seen.
Man, is there a way that I can wave a magic wand and like Led Zeppelin gets back together and I can watch them play at Wembley Stadium? Like, because that would be on my bucket list.
Let me check the rules.
Is that on there?
Let me check the
Because I
rules.
know that right now, they're not doing
Yes.
that whole thing. Okay, good. Then hypothetically, in
That
this,
works.
I would love to. There's so many places I'd love to travel. I've been very fortunate to travel, and I can't wait to do that with my family. Now that I have a very young family, and so I would love to go some of the places that I've fallen in love with, and some of the places I haven't been to, but I can't wait to experience it with my daughter. So off the bat, if I'm going to pick a place, I've never been to Australia, and I really want to go down under.
So we
maybe
have
maybe
been to
we'll go there someday.
Australia, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Do not take your young daughter
Okay.
to the top of the Acropolis if you like history.
Okay.
Because if she's anything like one of our daughters, she will have the biggest meltdown she has ever had. The good thing about that is you can remind her about it for the rest of her life.
Why would you think that his daughter is as horrible as our daughter?
And you might not like history as much as Mark.
So-
he wanted to be there to like really listen about
you like
the
history?
Acropolis.
I do, and I was, to be quite honest, I was a little disappointed in Athens. I was a little disappointed. I liked Rome more. If I'm going to pick one empire, one Mediterranean empire.
I happen to see those two like 25 years apart, so it's hard to compare, but I loved both. However, the first one I went to as a student with no kids with me, and I will say I got to appreciate the history just a tad more than when we brought all the kids with us.
What's on your bucket list, Mr. Mark Breyer?
So first, I know this isn't the question, but I hate the term bucket list. I just
Yeah.
want to live every day like, I mean,
Serving me. Okay,
That's
I get
it.
it.
That's all I wanna do.
Perfect.
my bucket list is making you happy just once.
I love it. I want a Popeyes chicken sandwich later today.
That's your
because
bucket
we
list?
haven't eaten. No, that's what I want you to serve me today.
Oh.
Because we haven't eaten all day today. But let's call it a different thing than a bucket list then.
All right, but it's okay. But what do you have left to do? what do you
No,
want?
I asked you that question.
So does it have to be realistic, or can
I don't know.
I just reunited a
he
band that
just
hasn't been together
reunited
for
a band,
years. So
yeah, which I think is pretty cool.
Well,
Maybe
you know
they'll
this.
listen to this.
Once
and-
again, something I should not say on a podcast. But you know what? People like what was the word you used? Authenticity.
I love
so
authenticity,
let me
yeah.
be my authentic self.
Cool. Do it.
My dad inspired this. My dad and nephew inspired this. I want to be able to drink with my grandsons or granddaughters. I don't care with my grandkids. My dad went to Austin to visit my nephew, and he was in his mid-20s, and my dad was in his mid-80s, and they stayed out with my nephew and his friends till the bars closed at 2 a.m. And because I know my dad, and I've also heard the story, he did more than keep up with the youngsters. And to me, at the time when I heard the story, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's my dad. My dad's awesome. That's my nephew. My nephew's awesome. And I really didn't think much of the story. It was about a year later, I was like, I started working out much more because I realized, wait, to do that, I mean, a lot of things have to happen that you can't control. But one is, to the degree you can control your health, you got to be healthy enough to get to the point where you can be in your mid-80s and drink with your grandkids.
A lot of math involved.
So every time I work out, I'm just trying to get one step closer to drink
Which
with my
we
grandkids.
started talking about that because, when you go to work out, you're like, oh, I don't want to work out. And so we talked about what would encourage you to work out? Like, what motivates you?
That is how it happened. It was a little over a year ago.
Yeah, it was
and
like,
I've been
what
working out.
motivates you? Meanwhile, I don't work out at all.
I
But
have
I'm
been working out since.
Yes, he's been working out since.
So what's your bucket list? Can't be
Meanwhile,
that
it's
good.
not like your grandkids probably won't drink that much, and you probably won't either. So you're gonna do all this working out, and then you don't drink much, and your grandkids are gonna never want to drink.
I can drink.
It's still a dream. I get it.
Yeah. He reunited a band, and your husband,
Yeah.
all I did was say I want to drink with. How are you going to doubt me? I can
Listen,
drink
I
in my
gave you
mid-80s if I want.
Which is good. And I gave you the motivation for you to work out every single day while I sit in the bed doing nothing.
I'm working out for both of us.
Oh, thank you.
I work out doubly hard.
I need that.
What is your bucket list? Apparently, we only
so-
get one item. It was such a
Only
good
one
question.
item.
And apparently, it was Popeye's chicken, but now you switched it.
I don't really know. I mean, you guys came up with like.
Did you
good
see what she did,
things.
Mike? Did you see that? We asked you. You gave a thoughtful answer.
My
she asked
bucket
me.
list-
I gave the most thoughtful answer, although
Yeah.
she says it's not possible because I won't be allowed to drink at that
Yeah.
age. And you then, after insisting that we
know.
answer, said I don't have
And
one.
and I knew that you would ask me, and I knew I would try to dodge it. But I don't really have a lot of bucket list items. But there are obviously a lot of places that I'd like to go. But I don't know. If I had my true bucket list, which wouldn't really happen, it would be to like continue having like a week vacation with the kids. But since they're getting all older and they're not a year and a half anymore, they like have to work and stuff. And so now
It's
all
very
my bucket
inconvenient.
list items are going away.
Well, let me wrap it
Adulting.
up by saying
They're
this.
adulting. What's going on?
It's annoying. You're awesome. Thank you for
Amazing.
joining
Thank you.
us. You're
Yeah. This
great.
is fun.
You're great when we see you in short amounts. You're even greater like this.
Yes.
And I just want you to know that. Let's say there's a day that you and Vanessa both are under the weather.
Okay.
And you're
Yes.
like, who could do this? I'm your man. I'll say whatever you want me to say. I'll do whatever you want. And you can tell the D-backs they will save money because I work for free. In fact, I will donate to charity just for the chance to do the job that you're doing. And you can tell Cattell that I'll do his job too, but only if we're up by a whole lot of runs. And then the pitcher promises not to hit me. All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
It
for
was
having me.
awesome.
This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.